Ethan was ecstatic when he found the apartment. It was a snug one-bedroom in a historic, ivy-covered building tucked away in a peaceful neighborhood. The rent was shockingly affordable, almost too good to be true. The landlord, Mr. Whitaker, was polite but had an odd air about him. His thin frame and sunken eyes made him look perpetually tired. During the walkthrough, Mr. Whitaker mentioned one unusual rule: the basement was strictly off-limits. At first, Ethan didn't think much of it. Perhaps the landlord stored personal belongings there, or maybe it was unsafe for tenants. Either way, he figured it wasn't his business. For the first few weeks, the apartment was everything Ethan had hoped for: quiet, cozy, and his escape from the chaos of his previous living situation. But then the noises began. At night, when the world outside was silent, faint sounds would rise from below his floor. It started with the occasional thud, like something heavy being dropped, but soon escalated to scraping sounds, dragging noises, and what sounded eerily like muffled voices. He told himself it was an old building, likely with creaky pipes or some kind of pest problem. Still, he found himself lying awake, staring at the ceiling, straining to catch every sound. One night, Ethan could swear he heard crying, soft, pitiful sobs drifting up through the floorboards. He sat upright in bed, his skin prickling. His rational mind fought to dismiss it, but the sound lingered, tugging at his curiosity. The rule about the basement gnawed at him. Why would Mr. Whitaker be so adamant about keeping it locked? What could possibly be down there? One evening, Ethan's chance to find out came unexpectedly. He noticed Mr. Whitaker's key ring hanging on a hook near the basement door. The landlord had stepped out earlier, and Ethan doubted he'd return anytime soon. With his heart pounding, Ethan grabbed the keys and unlocked the forbidden door. The smell hit him like a punch, putrid and metallic, thick enough to make his eyes water. Hesitating, he flicked on the light and descended the rickety wooden stairs. The basement was vast, its concrete walls dimly lit by a single flickering bulb. Dusty furniture and piles of boxes cluttered the space. He moved cautiously, his breath shallow as he scanned the room. It was the far corner that made him freeze in his tracks. A row of steel cages lined the wall, each one large enough to hold a person. Inside, skeletal remains lay in grotesque piles. The sight made his stomach churn. These weren't animal bones. Some were yellowed and brittle, while others looked disturbingly fresh. The air felt thick with death. Ethan's breath hitched when he noticed movement in the largest cage. As he stepped closer, his knees nearly buckled. A person, a young woman, gaunt and pale, huddled inside, her bony arms clutching her knees. Her wide, terrified eyes locked onto his. "Please," she whispered, her voice a desperate rasp. "You have to leave. He'll come back soon." Before Ethan could react, he stumbled against a table, knocking over a stack of photographs. The scattered pictures caught his eye, and dread seeped into his veins as he picked one up. They were photos of tenants smiling, posed, and unsuspecting. His own face stared back at him from the top photo, the picture Mr. Whitaker had taken on his move-in day. A loud slam jolted Ethan out of his daze. The basement door had shut. Footsteps began descending the stairs, slow and deliberate, each one accompanied by a soft, eerie hum. Panicked, Ethan shoved the photographs into his pocket and darted toward the stairs. But before he could reach the top, Mr. Whitaker appeared, holding a massive wrench in one hand. "I told you not to come down here," the landlord said, his voice calm but chilling. "You just couldn't listen, could you?" Ethan backed away, his mind racing. Without thinking, he turned and sprinted deeper into the basement. His eyes darted around, searching for a way out. He wedged himself behind a stack of old boxes, barely managing to stifle his ragged breathing. The humming grew louder, closer, as Mr. Whitaker dragged the wrench along the concrete floor. "You shouldn't have seen this," he said, his tone almost regretful. "Now I'll have to fix it." Ethan's eyes locked onto a small basement window near the ceiling. It was his only hope. He waited until Mr. Whitaker's steps moved away, then made his move. Shoving the boxes aside, he scrambled up, clawing at the edges of the window. Just as he pulled himself through, he felt a hand clamp around his ankle. Ethan screamed, kicking wildly until his foot connected with something solid. The grip loosened, and he tumbled onto the damp grass outside. He fled to a gas station and called the police, but when they arrived, the basement was spotless, no trace of the horrors he'd seen. With Mr. Whitaker vanished and no proof, Ethan moved out the next day, haunted by the fear that his landlord was still out there, watching.